What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Another day, more transfer rumours coming your way. A lot to get through today, actually. Quite a lot to get through. Some new names added into the pool as well. But before we get into that, let's go and say big up to OKJersey.com, the only place where you can get top quality football shirts on the internet. You get a further 10% off with your code Spurs. They got the new Spurs shirts on there. They've got the new goalkeeping shirt, which has just been added as well. And you get these beauties as well. The training kits from last season, training kits from this season, I think will be added very, very soon. So if you haven't got yours already, make sure to head to okjersey.com. The link is pinned to the live chat along with the code, which is Spurs, which gets you a further 10% off. And remember, guys, do order a size up. That will be the right size for you. But yeah, you know it, people. OK Jersey, more than OKJersey.com. But that is that. Let's move on to some transfer rumours and some transfer stories for today. And Ali Gold did say that there's a big deal that they're clearly working on. Whether it comes to pass, whether it happens quickly is a totally different thing. There is more to come. So is that name Gakpo? Apparently it's not Savinho. Who is that name?
Who is this
magical bomber? It's still doing the rounds.
Yeah, but it's interesting when we talk about this quote-unquote secret bomber, because some suggestions have been said that this signing is one that we're working on before we sign Savinho. Yeah. So that would tell me it wouldn't be Gakpo, because I think Gakpo's only going to be sold if Liverpool are able to sign Bergvall and maybe some other players. So that might take a while. So surely that Gakpo signing, if it does happen, isn't an imminent signing. So that, for me, it would suggest if it is someone else, apart from Savinho, it's not him. So then what other name? I mean, if there was someone imminent, we would not have heard of it by now. Or we would not have heard a name. I mean, we're hearing a few names in the moment, but is there someone really that close? I don't know.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it depends. Because like if you just look at Sandro Tonali, for instance, apparently Roberto De Zerbi was doing the legwork from the end of the season. Mm-hmm. We didn't hear of that till much later than that. So maybe there is something secret going on in the works and in the pipeline that nobody knows about.
It's true. We did before we were linked with Tonali, we didn't hear any suggestions, and all of a sudden I think was it Romano or Ornstein just dropped a bomber saying Spurs in for Tonali, but it did take a few weeks after that, obviously, to get the deal done. So we're still at a point where we haven't really heard a definitive name. If this signing, quote unquote, is imminent, you would have thought. Maybe look, we have kept deals under wraps before. Odebear, I remember, we literally heard nothing, and then he literally on the day that he signed and it was announced, we heard nothing up until that very day. So it is possible to keep cards very close to your chest, but I just wonder who it could be at this point. It's very perplexing. Is it a massive signing? Is it someone that's going to blow our minds, or is it someone who maybe is a good player who the club are happy with, but maybe is not the big name that the fans are hoping for?
Well, Ali Gold says big deal.
But money-wise, it might be.
Big deal. Come on.
Money-wise, it might be. Name-wise, is it? That's the question.
The thing is, like, the only big deals that come to my mind is Osimhen and Harry Kane. When people talk about big deals and big bombers,
Yildiz,
yeah, him as well, 100%. But apart from that, you're looking at the names. There's no one that represents like big deal in terms of how the fans think of a big deal.
Like a special player,
yeah,
marquee signing kind of thing. When we're talking about the likes of Gakpo and Savinho, obviously I think they're good signings and I'm happy with them, but they're not like statement signings, are they? They're not like signings that make you go, wow, like we're really pushing the belt out here. They're good signings to improve our attack, and I want them, but they're not like these big marquee signings. And that doesn't really bother me if we're not getting a marquee signing, as long as we're getting players that improve the team and as long as we're getting a team that can compete. That's all I care about. But obviously, when there's now heightened expectation about what this name is, isn't there?
I think the one name that has been put out there that it could be is Omar Mamouche. Because obviously when the bomber thing first dropped, they said, well, I put some suggestions that the name could be Omar Mamouche. Obviously he pivoted to Cody Gakpo after that. Ali Gold has said that Roberto De Zerbi very much likes Omar Mamouche. So could it be Mamouche?
Could be. I like him as a player. I think he's a top player as well. I think he would really improve our attack and can play in the 9, can play a bit deeper as well. I think he's the kind of player De Zerbi would love. Is he how much would we have to pay for him? It doesn't, whatever, that's regardless. Is he a bomber signing? Probably. I mean, I think he'd get everyone very excited, would he? Wouldn't he? More than Gakpo, because Gakpo, I guess, is unwanted at Liverpool and, you know, a lot of Liverpool fans are frustrated with him, and a lot of Spurs fans think, oh, he's just average, whereas Mamouche has a different kind of reputation about him. He's still got a reputation of being a top player, despite the fact that last season it didn't work out great for him at Man City. So I would be delighted with him personally. I think that's a massive upgrade, and I think he's a player who could potentially, you know, be getting close to 20 goals for us in the forward line. Is he a guaranteed world-class forward who you bring in and you think this guy is going to be, you know, one of the top attackers in the Premier League? I don't know if he's at quite that level, but he's still a very good signing.
Yeah, I would love Omar Mamouche through the door. I think De Zerbi would get the best out of him. Another one who it could be, there's been kind of no sort of real suggestions about it, but Pedro Neto of Chelsea. Can play right, can play left. Obviously, we had so many discussions about him when he signed for Chelsea because we were linked with him at the time. I think at Wolves, he was sensational. But I think he's never really pulled up those goal contributions that we're looking for. That's the reality.
Yeah, he's similar to Savinho in a sense that he's very good at what he's good at, which is dribbling, creating chances, committing players, but he's not a guy who's going to get you, you know, 10, 15 goals. It's just not his game. So if you're expecting him to come in and add a lot more goal output, then you're going to be disappointed. But if you're asking him to come in and provide for the striker and up the quality in the forward line, he does exactly that. I would say again, he's a very similar profile to Savinho. So I feel like I don't know. Would we get Savinho and Neto? I feel like they're very similar profile. It looks like to me we want to go for like a Savinho and then maybe someone who's more of a goal getter on the wing. That's kind of what I'm getting in terms of that implication. So that would tell me it's kind of Savinho or Neto, but I wouldn't say no to Savinho and Neto, potentially.
People in the comments, or someone just said in the comments, Ferran Torres.
Yeah,
he just scored the winner in a World Cup final.
He's a goal scorer.
He had a massive season for Barcelona just now. But I mean, before this season, would you have even said like he's a goal scorer? Everyone was very frustrated watching Ferran Torres play.
He's always been a player. That's I think his best strength is getting in those positions and scoring. I think that's where he excels. But
he's a frustrating player to watch.
He's a frustrating player to watch. He can be wasteful. He was very hit and miss when he wasn't Man City in the Premier League. I don't think he was all bad. I thought he was a decent player, he looked like, but he didn't last too long. I think he was only there for 18 months, and then it obviously made that move to Barcelona in the end, and he's had a kind of mixed period at Barcelona. So I don't think he would classify as a bomber necessarily, but again, it ups the quality of the forward line.
Yeah, majorly. Harry Kane, man, that contract hasn't been signed yet. That contract has not been signed. Like,
don't do it to yourself.
I'm always going to do it to
don't do it to yourself.
I'm always going to do it. But the thing is with Harry Kane, right, I know he won't want to take a year out of the Champions League, particularly of someone of his age, and, you know, it's fanciful thinking that he would do that to come back to Spurs. But could they be selling him? You know, look at the ambition that we're showing right now. The defence is sorted, the midfield is sorted. All we need is a profile like you. All we need is a star like you, and then we're fighting for league titles.
The only way it happens is if Harry Kane is desperate to come back to the Premier League right now, and he doesn't want to spend any more time in Germany. And is he? I mean, judging by what he says, he seems quite happy at Bayern. So that would suggest to me it's a no-go this summer. We could try and sell it to him, but I don't know if he would buy it. I don't know if he'd be sold on it just yet. I think for him it makes more sense to spend at least a year at Bayern and then assess his options next season.
God, I would do unspeakable things to get Harry Kane back to this football club this summer. Could you imagine?
Yeah, that would be.
You know, that'd be
too much.
The legendary status he has already at this football club, right? If he came back to Spurs a year outside of the Champions League with no European football at all, wow.
That'd be a stuff of dreams. That would be things that Doesn't happen to Tottenham, those kind of things. You know, we don't get that kind of happiness. I would love it, obviously.
What, Gareth Bale back in the Conference League year, was it? Or Europa
We did.
League?
He wasn't quite Harry Kane level.
Was it Conference League or Europa League?
It was Europa.
Yeah, Europa League.
He wasn't quite Kane level at the time, I think it's fair to say. As Mourinho said, he was more interested in golf at that point than he was in football. But obviously, he was quite good, I thought, when he came back. He wasn't, like, incredible, but he was decent.
He was very underrated.
He was good. He wasn't like, he didn't blow anyone away, but he was good. He was definitely not the Bale of his best. And he definitely wasn't like Kane, who's still at the peak of his powers, isn't he? So I think it's a very different circumstance. I would obviously probably give my right hand to have Harry Kane come back at Tottenham. It would be an incredible sight, and get everyone so excited. And it would just having Harry Kane back in a Tottenham shirt would be the stuff of dreams. I just can't see it happening this summer.
Yeah, me neither, to be honest. But there is a bomber that they're working on.
There's something.
Who is it? We need to know who it is. When did De Zerbi make those comments?
It was just before the Chelsea game.
So what? We're like, the Chelsea game was on Saturday. So yeah, we're just like
It was like Friday, wasn't it? It was on Friday.
Yeah, so it's been so many days.
Or maybe Thursday, because it wasn't in the press conference. I think it was the day before, so maybe Thursday.
So it's been like quite some time that's elapsed since that press conference, and still everyone's in the dark who this bomber is. Ali Gold's still banging on about it. Still banging on about it.
So either they're keeping their cards extremely close to their chest and there's something just waiting to happen and it's going to break any moment, or they're not as close as we think with this signing, and maybe De Zerbi was putting pressure on the board to get this deal over the line, whatever deal they're negotiating. It's hard to say, we don't know what the truth is, but it's anyone's guess at the moment.
I know. Well, if you've got any guesses that we haven't mentioned, let us know in the comment section below. And also, let us know, out of the names that we have suggested, who do you think this secret bomber is that Spurs are looking to bring in? Apparently, Spurs are working on a deal at this moment in time to try and get this bomber over the line. But look...
Romano's just tweeted.
So, yeah, we are going to get into Spurs transfer news, and we are starting off with Savinho. So... what has Fabrizio Romano said?
It's not good.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Tottenham are still pretty far apart on price for Savinho. Savinho has handed in a transfer request and has already agreed personal terms with Spurs. That's interesting. That's a bit new, how he's handed a transfer request. Wow. But we're still pretty far apart on price.
Wow. Transfer request.
So he is trying to force it.
Like a bit ago, like he asked to leave. Now he's handed in a transfer request. Jake Sanders from The Sun saying Savinho's piling pressure on Man City to let him leave in a £60 million deal.
Well, there you go. That's the evidence of that.
Yeah. So, wow. Transfer request. So, how much? What is the price difference here? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. How far apart can we be? Obviously, we heard at the beginning of the summer that City could well be willing to let him go for around 45 to 50. So maybe we were on the assumption that that could be the price that could get it over the line. But now we've seen, now as the market has moved since obviously those last few months, we've seen the prices of, go crazy for a lot of different players. Maybe City are looking at thinking, actually, Savinho is probably worth a bit more than we originally priced him at. And now if you want him, you're going to have to pay 60 to 65 maybe. And maybe we're still trying to haggle down to closer to the £50 million mark. And City are saying, trying to be a bit more stubborn. That's maybe what I'd assume. Do they want maybe even as high as 70? Obviously, last summer was the price for him after one good season in the Premier League. But last season, you'd assume the season he had, his price would drop. And also the fact that he's handed a transfer request, that price would go a bit lower. And City are known for letting players go if they're unhappy and don't want to stay. Obviously for the right price, but they're known for not standing in these players' way if their heart is not a Man City. So that would suggest if he's handed a transfer request that they're not going to hang on to him, like they will let him leave. And maybe Spurs have seen that and trying to use that leverage to try and get the price down as much as possible. But what are we going to end up paying? That's the question.
The thing is, with him putting in a transfer request, with him desperate to join Tottenham Hotspur, we've seen on social media what he's like, and liking every Spurs player's tweet, following every Spurs player, putting his thumb up to a fan that said Savinho joined Tottenham. I mean, this deal surely gets done. When have you ever seen, apart from Savinho, Man City hold on to a player like this that really wants to go?
The only one I would say is they did. There was lots of rumours for many years about Bernardo, and he certainly seemed to hang on for two to 3 years. But then again, how desperate was he to leave? He wasn't exactly handing in transfer requests, was he? So I think more often than not, even very good players, we've seen the likes of João Cancelo, kick up a fuss and then he's out the door pretty quickly. Even the likes of Ferran Torres, who wasn't terrible and he was out the door pretty quickly. Leroy Sané, he was a good player for them. He was getting itchy feet, and all of a sudden he was out the door pretty quickly. Alvarez, another player who was a good player for them, and as soon as he wanted to leave, bam, he's out. So, yeah, by and large, it doesn't matter how good they are. If they want to leave, City do usually facilitate it.
Unless there's a different way of working now at Manchester City, because obviously Pep Guardiola's gone now. Tixi Bernstein as well, who was their sporting director, I think, among all those transfers that you spoke about. They've got a new guy at the helm now. I can't remember his name at the top of my head, but maybe there is a different way of working at Man City.
Rafi Mawson's come to Spurs.
Rafi Mawson's at Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, it might well be. Maybe they're more stubborn, and maybe they're just want their price. To be fair, all the other players that they've sold, I don't know how much they lowered their price. I mean, Alvarez was 75 million.
Yeah.
I think Ferran was a decent fee. I think 50 to 55 at the time. I can't remember how much Sané went for, but I think they still get decent fees for their players. So I don't know whether in those deals they ended up compromising on price, or whether they just got the money that they wanted. And maybe this is the case here. They're just looking for that price. If it's 65 million, if they're being stubborn on that, it is quite a high price to pay. But I think we've gone so far down the road, and I think everyone's gotten so used to the idea of Savinho being a Tottenham player. It'll just be a major disappointment if it didn't happen at this point.
Yeah, like I keep saying, I do think a deal's going to get done. Once he's starting handing in transfer requests, I think they're going to get. There's going to be some sort of compromise that has to be met between Tottenham Hotspur and Man City. Whether Tottenham have to go up a little bit, Man City have to come down a little bit, I don't know. But the player clearly doesn't want to be at Manchester City.
It is odd though, considering when you look at the Tonali and Fernandes deal. Look, obviously we don't know what the price Man City are demanding. So if they're like demanding 100 million or something ridiculous, then I understand there's going to be a price gap. But I can't see that being the reality. If they are demanding like close to 70 potentially, given what the market is at the moment. But when you look at the Fernandes and Tonali deals, they had no problem overpaying for those deals, did they? They had no problem putting the money down. So it's either a ridiculous fee or maybe they're just being a bit more stringent on this deal than they were on the previous deals, and maybe they see those other deals as absolute necessities, and maybe when they look at Savinho, think either we pay the price we want or we move on to someone else.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess at this point, but Spurs have got to get the deal over the line. I think they will. Savinho pushing for the deal, handed in a transfer request. So let's see what the next steps are.
And I love that. I love that he's really... Obviously, we've heard that he's desperate to come and he's pushing for it, but actually going that extra mile and putting the transfer request in, that really shows a willingness to try and do what needs to be done to get this deal over the line. And that also shows his excitement, desperation to come play for Tottenham. And that's great.
Is he going to take it the next step?
Which is what?
Alexander Isak.
Not turn up for training. Well, yeah. But do we want that? Do we like players who do that kind of thing? I mean, putting a transfer request is one thing, but all of a sudden when you're not turning up to training, that's all well and good when you sign him, but then all of a sudden you could be on the end of that if he wants to move on from you. So for part of me, it's like I don't kind of like players who do that. So, you've got to be a bit wary of it. But yeah,
I mean, I bet you would have taken Alexander Isak.
Absolutely. Yeah, some players you don't really care about if they're going to do that. Yeah, what's your gut telling you about the price they're demanding?
It's a hard one. It's a hard one to think of, but I got a feeling
it must be about 70.
Yeah, I think 75, 70, 75. I think Spurs want to go to the £60 million mark. I think it's around there. But then there's not too much difference in that. So let's meet halfway between 60 million and 75. So go to what? 67.5 million, something like that. Let's get a deal done, and let's all move on, because this saga has drained the fan base. It's been going on since last summer. Let's just come to a conclusion one way or another, whether we sign him or don't. Let's just get this story out of our news feed. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just been going on for too long.
Yeah, but it's interesting how the narrative's changed, because all of a sudden we're saying, yeah, let's just pay the 60. But at the beginning of the summer, it's like, well, everyone was saying 45 to 50 is a good deal. If we want any more than that, maybe we should go to a different target. But now they've upped their price. Now we're saying, yeah, if it's 60, just pay 60. Look, I don't mind. I think he's a really good player, as I've said, and he's a good long-term player for us potentially with his age. And I think he's only got scope to grow. And I think I think De Zerbi could really get the best out of him and make him a better player. We've already seen how he's improved players already in a very short space of time. So I don't mind paying the 60 million or whatever it's going to take to bring him in. But I think beginning of the summer, a lot of fans were saying, if it's 45, 50, good. If it's any more than that, move on.
Yeah, I was saying that. I was saying that, and I was saying that I want Savinho in alongside another player who can, really push the boat out in terms of getting goal contributions. I mean, we're getting to the nitty gritty part of the transfer window now. There's less than a month.
That's the worry, isn't it?
So it is a concern. So I think even in that sense, you're looking at the market. You're looking at who we can potentially bring out on the wings. We need 2 players. So get this one over the line. If you have to overpay a little bit, you have to overpay. But we need another one as well, which we'll get into in a minute.
It's also very concerning. The saga's been going for so long, and there's still a big far apart in the valuation. Like, surely at this point, we should know what each other want, and there should have already been a compromise. What is taking so long?
Look, Rafi Mawson has got very good contacts at Man City. Why has this not escalated quicker? It's very peculiar. But hopefully now that he has handed in a transfer request, things will start to happen. On Cody Gakpo, not such great news if you want to bring him to the club, as James Pearce from The Athletic says Liverpool have absolutely no interest in selling Cody Gakpo this summer. Andoni Iraola believes he'll get the best out of Gakpo this season. SZY also says, I really don't think they sell. I asked for an honest opinion and heard he'd stay there for one more season. Spurs could test them with a £70 million offer, but it's risky. Roberto De Zerbi said someone would come in before Savinho. Gakpo wouldn't really match that timeline. So, yeah, I mean, I was saying yesterday in terms of this position Liverpool are taking in the market that he's not for sale, that I think it's a negotiation tactic. Still could be, to be honest. But, I mean, The Athletic obviously are very well-sourced publications. So, I don't know. It makes me feel a bit negative about this deal.
Look, I've always said it's right now, Liverpool are very short in the forward line. They need players coming in. There's obviously links to Barcola and maybe others, but right now, Gakpo is still one of their main attackers, so I can't see them sanctioning any sort of deal until they're comfortable that they're set in the forward line without him, and I don't think they are right now. And they know he's been a reliable kind of squad player for them since he's been there, and he's a reliable source of goal contribution, so I can't see them letting him go unless, I mean, I know they've signed Munoz, but I don't know. I don't know if they've signed him, as a replacement for Gakpo. Like, do they really believe he's going to replace what Gakpo brings when it comes to output immediately? He's a young winger from Spain. Obviously, he might be good. I don't know, but do they trust him to replace Gakpo? Obviously, Rio is still only 18.
I think Barcola will be the replacement for Gakpo.
I understand, but that hasn't happened yet. I understand they're in for him, but I'm saying they're not going to sanction any move for Gakpo until these moves materialise. And that Barcola signing, that could be one that rumbles on for a while, because they're talking about big money for that, and that's not an easy deal to do. So, yeah, I think right now I wouldn't expect much movement on it until we see movement from Liverpool's side, and that could take a while. So I want Gakpo, and I think he would really add quality to our attack, but I don't know if I would. I don't know. Look, he's good. He is good, and I do want him at Tottenham, and I do think there aren't many options on the market who are Prem proven, who are as a reliable source of goal contributions as he is, who we can get over the line. But if it's playing the waiting game, I'll try and source out other options if we can. Maybe dip into who else is on the list before we hang our hat and get Cody Gakpo, because that might not happen. But obviously, I would try and get him if we can. I would test the waters with a bid if and see if there's any movement there.
I think like 65, 70 million for Gakpo. I said yesterday 65, but like if it's an extra 5 million, then whatever, fair enough. But like anything above that, when you're looking at 75, 80, 85, 90, I mean, it's just astronomical.
I know, it's
for
crazy.
a player of Gakpo's quality. It really is. Like, we talk about consistent goal contributions, but a player that's getting up to the 80s and 90s, you'd expect him to have even more goal contributions than what Gakpo is bringing, wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's nuts, the money. Like, and look, I know what I said about the Fernandes and Tonali thing, but I think it is a different case. It's a different case with Gakpo. Like, but then again, you look on the other side of it. Who are you going to bring in that's going to bring in a guaranteed more goal contributions than Cody Gakpo? You know, you're looking at Marcus Rashford. He's not consistently done it for the last 2 or 3 years, however long it's been. So there's a risk there. Who else is it? Pedro Neto. He doesn't bring in consistent goal contributions.
I think if you're not getting Gakpo, you probably have to make do with the fact that you might have to sign someone from a cheaper price bracket, but potentially with more upside, but a bit more of a risk, and you have to be okay with that. And if you're one of these fans who is saying we need Prem proven, we need guaranteed this, guaranteed that, no, we don't want to take any risk on any player, then you should be a fan that says, okay, let's just spend the money on Gakpo and push the boat out. But I think at the moment, for me, I'm obviously like Gakpo. I do want to bring him in. I'm not like absolutely obsessed with the idea of getting him, but I do want him. I do think he's a reliable player, and I think he adds quality to the attack. But if we don't get him because we're either priced out or Liverpool don't want to sell, and we go for someone else who's maybe a bit more of a risk, but also potentially could be better than him, I'm okay with that as well.
Another name that has been put into the hat, well, been put in all summer, to be honest, we've spoken about him a couple of times, is João Mateo Bahoya. Seb Stafford-Bloor of The Athletic saying that Tottenham expressed an interest in Frankfurt's João Mateo Bahoya and spoke to the French winger's representatives before the window began. The player has never been seen as a primary target, though, and there has been no club-to-club contacts at this point. I mean, I thought he played very well against Spurs when we played them in the Europa League, but apart from that, I haven't really seen him much, so it's hard for me to comment.
Yeah, he's one of these players who like performs quite well on the data when it comes to his underlying metrics, but he's still still waiting for him to explode, kind of thing. So that's the kind of signing I'm talking about when I'm saying if you're not going to go for Gakpo, you might have to make a signing like this and hope that he turns out as good as the data suggests or the scout recruitment suggests. So. And you might have to be okay with that, and he might be good, but then there'll be some fans saying, "Oh, we're skimping, we're not pushing the bow, we're not being ambitious, all this kind of stuff." But if you believe in your own scouting and recruitment, and this is what you've decided on, I don't mind, go for it, and let's see if he can come up with anything. But that's kind of the pool you're probably looking at if players like Gakpo don't materialise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at these goal contributions that he's had over the last 2 years. It doesn't scream out to me like a goal contribution machine.
No, but he's 21, and obviously, if you're a scout, you're not necessarily scouting a player what he's done previously and expect him to repeat it. You're looking at him thinking, this is what he can do. This is what he's very good at. This is his strength. If you get him in the right system, if you can improve him in these certain aspects, this guy can get you the goal contributions. He's just very young right now, and he needs to improve. But you could get the best out of him. Obviously, our scouting hasn't exactly done the job over the last however many years. So there's a lot of skepticism when it comes to signing a player like him, who's young, who still needs to prove, and he's not proven.
Another Odebear, basically.
Yeah, but Tel and Odebear haven't hit the ground running, unfortunately, and have taken time to obviously get to the level we want them to be. But this doesn't mean that every signing we make is always going to take that amount of time. It depends how good your scouting is.
Yeah, but there's no suggestion that he would come in and hit the ground running and bring us what we need straight away.
That's what the scouting is there for.
I understand that, but obviously we know what the scouting likes at Spurs.
That's what I'm saying. That's why there's a lot of scepticism around our recruitment because of previous years. But I think right now we're at a stage we all want proven players who have done it in the Premier League, so we can rely on them to give those goal contributions. And in that case, you go with Gakpo
as well. We're so desperate.
Yeah, and in that case, you should push the boat out for Gakpo. But if we're not going to do that, if he's ungettable, you might have to settle for a player like this and just hope.
There must be other people. There must be other players that we can look at that are more proven than Bahoya, maybe at a different league, that are getting goal contributions regularly? There must be. Can't be.
I'm not okay. You can get more
Can't be
proven
just the
players.
Bahoya pool.
I'm not saying it's just Bahoya, but I'm
The
saying
pool.
it's someone. Yeah, someone who's. But my point is, it's going to be someone less proven than someone like Gakpo.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. And let's talk about Nicolas Jackson. Because with Jackson, Kieran Gill of Daily Mail says that Tottenham are interested in Jackson. Chelsea value him at 65 million. Jack Rossler of The Sun saying that Tottenham are understood to have expressed an interest to Chelsea in signing Nicolas Jackson. De Zerbi is very keen to add up 3 more forwards. The Athletic say that Jackson is valued at £65 million and is liked by Aston Villa. No mention of Tottenham. However, before we even start talking about it, Alistair Gold has already given us the here we cold. He's saying that Tottenham have no interest in signing Nicolas Jackson this summer. So
Everyone was in a frenzy for about an hour.
I like Jackson.
Yeah, me too.
I
Me
do
too.
like Jackson. I mean, I know he's clowned upon a lot because, his finishing's not the greatest, but I think, he's strong, he's athletic, he gets in behind well, his hold-up play is really good. I think he gives you a lot. His positioning is really good. He gets so many chances. But obviously the negatives are his finishing and maybe his aerial ability is not great as well for someone so big and athletic. You'd expect him to be better in the air. But I think Spurs should be looking at someone like Nicolas Jackson. I think he's an upgrade on what we got.
Yeah, I think, as I've said with Jackson, I think in a perfect world, you probably want him as your second striker to a much better first choice number 9. And I think he obviously adds chaos, he adds unpredictability. As you say, he's got incredible physical attributes and he's always a handful. Every time I watch him play, the opposition centre-backs seem to struggle against him. They seem to always have their work cut out for him. The problem is the guy has zero composure. I know he has scored goals previously. Maybe it's because he just gets a lot of chances, but you don't trust him when he's one-on-one, do you? And you don't believe he's like guaranteed to bury that chance. He lacks that extra bit of calmness in front of goal, and he ends up missing lots of really presentable chances. But the reality is, his 2 seasons in the Premier League, he got 14 goals and then 10 goals. So it's not like he doesn't score at all, and it's not like he is a guy who really struggles to score, but he has that little bit missing that stops him being that really elite striker or really a very good striker. So I would definitely like him. I would sell one of our strikers and bring him in. I think in a perfect world, you sell both strikers, one of them be Jack, and then bring in one Jackson, and maybe hopefully someone better than him or someone more reliable in front of goal than Jackson. So I think that would be like how I see the forward line in a perfect world. I think in the meantime, if this mythical number 9 who is better than Jackson and is going to get 30 goals isn't really attainable or realistic right now, I would still get Jackson in and move on one of the forwards that we have right now, and I still think that's an improvement. But then again, as we've been talking about, 65 million. I mean, this is the market we're talking about. Everyone's saying 70 for Gakpo is ridiculous, and yet the price for someone like Jackson, who was on loan at Bayern last season and wasn't really getting that much of a look in, and was being out of favour at Chelsea the year before that guy is £65 million. That is the market for forward players right now. So when you put into that context, I mean, 70 million for Gakpo doesn't really sound outrageous when you compare it to that.
I think 70 million for Gakpo is not crazy. I think it's when you get above that, 75, 80 plus, that's when you get into the ridiculous territory with Cody Gakpo. And I think it's the same with Nicolas Jackson. Like, if you sign him between like 50 and 60, I think that's a fair deal to do. And then when you get to like above 65 million, that's when it starts to become a bit pricey, and you think, what are you actually doing here? So yeah, with 65, I think that's probably the top limit that anyone should pay for Nicolas Jackson. I think as well, when you're talking about his finishing and his composure, that's some stuff that's like coachable. You know what I mean? It's not a fundamental flaw that you can't get better at. So I think De Zerbi would like to work with him, and I think he would get a lot better under De Zerbi. So I think it is someone that Spurs should be seriously looking at, because if you bring him in and let's say you pay 65 million for, and then he gets better under De Zerbi in those aspects that he's not very good at this moment in time, then suddenly, it's worth the money.
100%. As I say, I would definitely be looking at him compared to our other strikers. I'd much rather give Jackson a go than continue with both Solanke and Richarlison going into the new season. I definitely think he adds, at the bare minimum, he just adds a bit of unpredictability and a bit of chaos in that front line, and that would maybe... also, I think his link play is actually really good as well, and I actually think De Zerbi would like that. But they're saying, now Ali Gold is saying, we're not expected to make any moves. So are we not interested at all? Is De Zerbi not that bothered? Do we think the price is too high? Do we just think there's better options out there than Jackson? I don't know why we wouldn't look at him right now, but Ali Gold has poured cold water on it, which is a shame. Look, it's not like Ali Gold has never been wrong, and he has, but I don't think he would say that unless he's heard some sort of information after all these reports. So you've got to take his word for it at the moment. I would definitely believe him rather than the other two journalists you mentioned.
I think if you want to compare his first 2 seasons for Chelsea, obviously 1 year was under Pochettino and 1 year was Maresca. Was it Maresca his second year?
Yeah,
it must have been. So, I mean, he was considerably better under Pochettino than he was under Maresca. And would you say our style of play might look more similar to what Maresca does than what Pochettino does? Like, it was very much transitional based at times under Pochettino, and that's where, he probably comes alive. And also, the 14 goals that he scored under Pochettino, 3 of them were against a 9-man Tottenham.
True.
That... people dubbed it as the worst hat-trick they've ever seen.
It was one of the worst hat-tricks I've ever seen.
So you got to caveat that as well. So
no, but the reality is he's whether you got a caveat with the hat-trick, but that's still 11 goals. Before that, 10 goals the next season, and you do look at his underlying metrics.
Yeah, they're all very good.
They're all very strong. He's a very good carrier. I think the main thing is always his XG like per 90, so the amount of chances he's getting for himself is always extremely high. So he always is making a very good movement. He's always getting in the right positions. He's always a threat constantly. So he never gives defenders a moment's rest. And I think that does have a value. But obviously, if he's not going to be a reliable source of goals, people would argue, however valuable it is not. It doesn't make a difference if he's continually fluffing his lines. And obviously, his finishing is definitely a major issue, and it's something that he just hasn't really been able to shake off. But I do like him. I think there is potential there. He's not the finished article, and at 25, maybe you expect him to be, more finished than he should than he is at the moment. But I think there is a player worth pursuing, and it's disappointing to hear that we're not going to pursue him, because I don't know what other players that in the forward line as a pure number 9 we would go for. Who would be a better fit than him?
Why don't we just go for Guirassy, man? I don't understand why we don't just go for him.
Yeah, he's a reliable source of goals. He's strong, good finisher. He's a much better finisher.
In terms of number 9s that are gettable right now, surely in terms of proven quality finishing goals, guaranteed goals for next season, he is the number 1.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just an age thing, but obviously he's only 30. He's a good short-term option.
I think him for 2 years. And then, you've got the prospect of, if we do get Champions League, potentially bring back Harry Kane next summer or in 2 years' time, wherever it may be. I think he'll be a great stopgap.
Yeah, he's done it. Obviously, the caveat would be he's only done it in Bundesliga, but he also does score a lot in the Champions League, so that would obviously offset that caveat. But then again, off the back of that, we've seen last season, even the Champions League group stages aren't exactly the same level of the Premier League at the moment. So that's obviously another thing to think about. But yeah, I would definitely take a punt on him, because right now the striker market is very scarce. He's a guy who can score goals at a very high level. And if it is a short-term option or a stopgap option while we assess our options going forward, I'm willing to give it a go.
Another striker Spurs have been linked to today goes by the name of... Where is it? Florian Balogun, Flo Balogun.
Again.
Monaco. Spurs have been linked by the Daily Mail, saying that Tottenham have been offered the chance to sign Florian Balogun. The striker's representatives are said to have reached out to Spurs directly with a proposal for the former Arsenal youngster. He is available at a very competitive price, apparently.
It's very similar to what I feel about Jackson. I think maybe he might be a slightly better finisher than Jackson, actually, but I still think it's a very similar, very good physical profile, runs defenders ragged, but he's not like a killer in front of goal. But I think he's probably a little bit of a better finisher than Jackson. I think he's got a bit more better finishing technique. I think he strikes the ball a bit cleaner than Jackson does when I watch him play. Obviously, was quite a good threat at the World Cup. Obviously there was controversy around his red card and everything like that, but I thought he was quite good at the World Cup. And I think over the last few seasons in France, he's shown he's a pretty decent striker. But whether I would obviously rather go with Jackson because we know he can do it in the Prem, whereas with Balogun, he's only really done it in France. So I think Jackson's probably less of a risk than Balogun for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, with Balogun, look, he's done very well for Monaco. And who was he at with before Monaco? I think that's
Rennes. Was it Rennes? No, not Rennes. It was with Will Still.
Yeah, I can't remember the club, but I think he did very well there in terms of the number of goals he was getting. But I do question him in the Premier League because we've just never seen it. So I agree. I would go
Reims.
Reims, that was it. Yeah, I would go more for Jackson than I would go for Flo Balogun. And obviously, like if this guy goes through a bit of a barren run early doors, you know what's going to happen with the fan base. Oh,
Double
get
agent.
Get this Gooner out. So yeah, I'd much prefer go for Nicolas Jackson than Flo Balogun. Next player, so we're going to talk about a few outgoings or potential outgoings, and Lucas Bergvall, who is on the next on the list. And Graham Bailey says that Tottenham have called talks over a potential departure for Lucas Bergvall after De Zerbi made it clear he wants the teenager, well, he's not a teenager anymore, to remain in North London. So maybe Lucas Bergvall might be staying at the club after all that.
I said after that picture with Bergvall smiling with De Zerbi with his arm around his shoulders, like, that doesn't look like a guy who's desperate to leave. One whisper from De Zerbi in his ear and he's fully back on board. Look, obviously this is a report from Team Talk and we know they do pump out a lot of stuff. So I think they've actually... I have to give them credit. I think they've probably been a bit more reliable recently since like Graham Bailey's come on than they have been maybe in previous years. It's not maybe the dumpster fire it was, but it's still not a reliable source of information.
No Ekrem Konar.
No, it's better than Ekrem Konar, but it's not exactly Ornstein or Romano, put it that way. But
not many are.
Yeah, exactly. That's also true. But if it is true, I'm delighted with that. It has gone very quiet when it comes to Bergvall. The last we heard is a few weeks ago, a bid rejected of 46 million. And I always thought, if that's getting rejected, are we really going to see bids much higher than that? I'd be very, very surprised if the likes of Newcastle, Forest, or I think Villa as well were linked, are actually going to put a bid of close to 60 million, which Spurs were looking for. You would think as well, if the price is genuinely 50 million and we had a bid rejected 46, then surely that deal gets done, but it hasn't been done, and he's gone on the tour and he's played quite a bit and looked good on the tour as well. So maybe there is a reason it has gone quiet. Maybe Graham Bailey, his information is accurate. I would absolutely love for him to stay. We've all been very clear that I think we all think Bergvall's a top talent, and I think he's got a future here if he does stay. But I also understand it from his point of view. If he looks at the signings we're making and looks at it thinking, look, I'm getting out of here. I don't think it's the best place for my development. But maybe he's looked at what De Zerbi's been doing with him pre-season, and you've seen him maybe improve a bit over these last couple of appearances. Obviously, it's only pre-season; you can't judge it too much, but maybe he's seen that, how De Zerbi can improve him, and maybe he's gotten assurances from De Zerbi, look, you will get game time if you stay. Maybe he's changed his mind. I'd like to think that's the case, but look, it's still a long way to go between now and the end of the window.
Look, obviously I've said I want Bergvall to stay, right? But what do we do then? Because if we wanted to bring in another midfielder, we spoke about yesterday, bringing in that midfielder makes it a 10 out of 10 window. To bring in someone that can play, like let's say a Morgan Gibbs-White, you know what I mean? Like, if that's going to be a hurdle for us getting Morgan Gibbs-White through the door, then it's probably a deal that we should look to do. Because Morgan Gibbs-White is obviously a ready-made player now, a player that can fill in the 10 when we've got so many problems there. And then obviously he can drop back, he can play many different positions in the midfield. So in an ideal world, yes, I do want to keep Lucas Bergvall at the club. But if it's going to be a hurdle to us bringing in someone like Morgan Gibbs-White or an Alex Scott, would you prefer to sell?
I would, but if that's the case, you should have accepted 46 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You shouldn't be holding out for 60 if that's your plan. And if you're certain about getting the likes of Scott or Gibbs-White, then you should sell 100%. And you should probably compromise on the price, but the fact they rejected 46 million and they haven't come back to the table suggests that maybe we are being quite stubborn on a quite a high price, and that doesn't tell me that we are willing to sell him and go and get Gibbs, White or Scott. That doesn't tell me that's the plan. I don't think it is the plan. I'm not saying we wouldn't want to bring those players in, but I think right now we're pretty happy with the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Negotiations can be a long drawn-out process like we've seen with Savinho. But you never know, because Forest haven't brought in anyone. Newcastle, I don't think they've brought in anyone. To caveat, Sandro Tonali and potentially Bruno Guimaraes leaving as well. So there's still opportunities there because these clubs haven't made the purchases yet.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows what can happen over the next few weeks. Something tells me that we haven't heard the last of this. And I think that one of Forest or Newcastle might still come back in with a higher bid. But we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it and see what happens.
Yeah, I think the question is from those guys is, are they coming for him because they see him as this guy who can definitely start and they're desperate to get someone with Bergvall's quality in and they see him as the answer to their midfield problems, or are they coming in for him because they see him wanting to leave and they think they can maybe get a good deal for quite a good young player?
Maybe a bit of both.
But what's more of their motivation? Because if the motivation is they see him as their starter, then maybe they're going to be more willing to go to the price we want. But if they're just seeing him as a player who's available, who's a good young player who can maybe be part of the squad, maybe they're not going to be willing as much.
Yeah, I think if they're only going to bring him in as part of the squad, he may as well just stay at Tottenham because that's what he's going to be at Tottenham.
Yeah, but maybe he just sees more chances at those places than he does at Tottenham because of the signings we've made.
Potentially, but big midfielders have left both those clubs this summer, so there's obviously going to be more of a chance of him being more of a solidified starter at both those clubs. So the original talks, I can't remember who said it, but the original talk says they see Lucas Bergvall as Elliot Anderson's replacement, which is crazy.
But also, if you're Bergvall as well, you're looking at both those clubs right now. Newcastle, a bit of turmoil, and you've got Forest, who've got Glasner. Obviously, Glasner's a good coach, but maybe he's looking at De Zerbi, is thinking, is maybe De Zerbi the best guy out of those three to improve me as a player rather than those clubs? He might be looking at it that way.
Yeah, he could be looking at it that way. I mean, look, we don't know about the Newcastle manager. I think if I was Bergvall, I'd stay away from Newcastle right now. But if I'm looking at that Nottingham Forest project under Glasner, and he's got assurances of starts and playing time, I would be seriously looking at that because he is going to get more chances there than he's going to get at Tottenham. That's the reality.
He is, but Glasner's a good. Not saying he's a bad manager any stretch. He's just not as attacking as De Zerbi, and maybe De Zerbi could develop him in a better way. But maybe look, obviously he did well with Wharton, so can't exactly say he can't get the best out of centre mids.
Next up, we're going to talk about Cuti Romero, as there's been some information first up from Sasha Tavoleri saying that Inter are unwilling to meet Tottenham's €50 million asking price for Romero. It remains difficult to find common ground in negotiations with Spurs standing firm. Romero, who is keen on joining Inter, will have to play a decisive role in getting the deal over the line. Sky Sports Italy are saying that Inter Milan require sales before they can try and sign Romero. Romero figures highly on Inter's list of targets for the summer window and face an uncertain future at Tottenham Hotspur. As things stand, the total package for Romero, including wage demands, are difficult for Inter Milan to get to. So, I mean, we heard yesterday that Spurs are asking for 40, not 50.
I mean, didn't Romano say, was it Romano or someone said that the fee's been agreed?
Yeah, we have heard the fee's been agreed.
Wasn't it Romano?
I don't think it was Romano. I think it was someone else, but it might have been.
Or maybe it was Damasio or something.
Yeah, I think it was Damasio. Who is Sky Sports Italy? I mean, he works for Sky Sports Italy, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Damasio?
but he was saying fee agreed. The only problem is Romero and his wages.
Yeah, so.
But now we're hearing
every day there's something else that is coming out on this Romero situation.
Yeah, it was. Some people in the comments says it was Romano.
It was Romano? So I don't know what to believe anymore. Maybe we just take Romano because Romano is the most reliable out of all of them.
But as we've been saying all summer, agreeing 40 million does seem ridiculous as well. I mean, I'm a bit annoyed by if they were now far apart and wait on a gap in valuation, just because I'm sick of talking about this transfer and I just want it to be over and done with at this point. And if we were going to take a cut price free a fee, which is a fee that we weren't going to be happy with, then just take it and move on, because all this talk is nonsense. But if we're being serious, we shouldn't be accepting 40 million. Of course, we should be demanding the bare minimum 50, and probably even more than that if we're looking at the quality of the player, the length of the contract, and all that kind of stuff, and his standing in the game with, him getting to another World Cup final, having previously been a World Cup winner. So I think 40 million, we shouldn't be accepting that, and we should be holding out for more. And there should hopefully be other clubs interested, but given the fact that we heard that there was a fee agreed with Inter, that would imply that the interest is really low and we're just desperate to get rid, and we're desperate to get as much money as we can for him. So I thought that was the case, but now we're hearing that the fee is back at 50, which makes more sense to us. But also, what's changed? Has anything changed? Maybe Romano jumped the gun when he talked about an agreed fee, and we have seen him jumping the gun this summer a few times when it comes to a fee agreed, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. What I would do if I was Spurs right now, I'll go to Interplan negotiation. We'll give you Romero, we'll give you 50 or 60 million on top, and we'll take Lautaro Martinez off your hands. That's what I would do.
What about Marcus Thuram?
Or him I'll take as well. But Lautaro Martinez. Let's revive that deal.
That would be great. I would love to get Lautaro in. He's one of these strikers who is maybe at a club where financially you could show your muscle against. He's been at Inter for a long time. Could he be looking for a new challenge? Albeit, I do remember when we first linked with him, he was saying he was absolutely loving life in Inter. I think he just opened a new restaurant or something, and he's really settled there. But that was obviously a few years ago now. Could he be wanting a new challenge? But then again, Inter, they challenge for the league every year. They always do fairly well in the Champions League as well. He's probably on a good wage. He might not be desperate to leave, so it's hard to say.
Yeah,
but I'd love him.
I feel like Lautaro Martinez, in terms of stylistic wise, could be perfect. Proper bulldozer, isn't he?
He's good, and he's good link play. I don't think he's the best finisher in the world, but I think he's a good finisher. Gets goals. I think he's the kind of a full package. I really like him, and he's been at the top level for a long time. I think there's a very little downside. The only thing I would say about Lautaro is it's only really like my own perception, but whenever I watch him in big Champions League games and also in the World Cup, he seems to really fluff his lines like badly. I don't know if he's a big game player. Like, there's something, whenever I watch him in big games, he always has a really bad performance all the time.
Great at the World Cup,
wasn't great again at the World Cup, and that's multiple World Cups he's not been good at. And I feel like whenever Inter get to the latter stage of the Champions League, it's never really him that steps up. It's always other players. He always seems to have bad performances.
Yeah, that is a fair point. But let us know what you think of the Romero situation in the comment section below. The last one we're going to speak about is Manor Solomon. And the iPaper, Cat Lucas, says that Tottenham value Manor Solomon at £20 million. Hull are also interested, with West Ham leading the race. Opening bids of between 10 to 20 million are expected, and a move could gain momentum quickly and could be agreed over the coming days. Steb Stafford-Bloor of The Athletic saying that Tottenham and West Ham are in negotiations for a permanent transfer of Manor Solomon. I mean, I've always said, like, I'd be very surprised if Spurs get a fee that high for Manor Solomon. But then you think about it, with Spurs going into negotiations with West Ham, we know West Ham, we've given them 85 million for Mateus Fernandes. They've just got a very big fee for Somerville as well. So we know they've got money to play with.
And Hull are a Premier League team.
And Hull a Premier League team. So maybe it is the right position for Spurs to go in that kind of high.
I think it should be. I think he is that kind of level of player when it comes to his value. Obviously, 15 to 20 million, it sounds like a lot of money, but really in 2026, that's like the modern day £5 million signing.
True.
So it's like, for a Premier League club like Hull, it's not a massive outlay. I think if we do get 15 million, great. I think that's like a good fee for a player that's probably not going to be used too much this season. If we get 20 million, even better. I think if you're Solomon, do you maybe go down to West Ham, stay in London, obviously bigger club, and maybe down the line, you know, he could, obviously they could be in the Premier League maybe longer than Hull, or do you go to Hull, who's Premier League right now, and but could well struggle to stay up and be in a relegation? I think West Ham's probably the better move. Yeah, I agree. Because I think if he stays at West Ham and does really well, and then they trust him going into next season, they're probably going to be in the Premier League longer than Hull.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a deal will get done to West Ham. Look, I spoke about it yesterday, saying a little bit of a shame because I would like to see keep him around for cover, just in case, you know, we get those injuries. But you can't keep a player against their will because of those situations. He obviously wants to leave Spurs. He's got interest there, and if we can get a decent fee of around 15 to 20 million, then I think it's a great deal for the club.
Yeah, it's no brainer, isn't it, at that price? So I think makes sense for everyone. I think it would be good for us to get even more money for another fringe player that we're not going to use. So I think it's the right thing.
Yeah. So that is your Tottenham update. A nice lengthy one for you guys. Let us know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories that we have brought you today. A couple of super chats. Are these from today? Yeah, I think they are. Thomas Owen says, in a perfect world, we get Marmoush and Savinho.
Yeah, I'd like that a lot.
And RD the Quirky Puffin says, could we hijack Barcola if the Liverpool moves drags on? Can't we just go and put like 130 million down on the table for Barcola?
I'm all for it.
Why not, though?
I wouldn't get your hopes up, but I'm all for it.
I wouldn't get hopes up as well, but with like the ambition that we've showed for the midfield, like why can't we just like test the waters?
Do it. We ain't getting him, but sure, put the bid in. I mean, he ain't coming to Tottenham. He'd rather stay at PSG than come to Tottenham. I'm pretty sure about that. But you know what? Money talks. You never know. I mean, I would be over the moon if we got someone like Barcola through. Albeit, as I've said before, I think the fee we're talking about is massive, 140 million.
Yeah.
For someone who's, again, not really a goal scorer, but I do like him a lot.
Yeah, I think he looked really good at the World Cup as well, didn't he, Barcola? But yeah, obviously he's probably going to go to Liverpool, so no point talking about
or just stay at PSG and come to Tottenham. Pretty sure about that.
All right, let's move on. We've got some comments to react to. You guys have been going in the last week, so let's see what comments we're going to react to today.
All right, first comment is from Sean Tottenham. He says, I can see this upcoming season being the one that Tell really shines. If he's given minutes, I think he can get upwards of 15 to 20 goal contributions. You heard it here first.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because he's been one of the shining lights in pre-season so far. He looks like he really wants it. I think in terms of what you could never doubt about Tell is his commitment, his desire, and his want to always get better. So I think that's the case. I think when he was at Bayern and when we signed him, I loved the signing. I really thought, you know, he would do better for us a lot quicker than he has done. But maybe under De Zerbi, if De Zerbi has a plan to develop him, which I'm sure he does, then maybe he can reach those heights. But it's kind of like I'll believe it when I see it because we haven't really seen it as of yet. But you know, in certain games, he's done really well, but he's been very hit and miss so far for Tottenham Hotspur. So I'd love to see it. If he can get those goal contributions for Tottenham next season, I would love to see it.
I guess the question isn't has he done it already. The question is he capable of it? When you watch him play, do you see a player that is capable of that kind of output? And I do. I think. I definitely in pre-season he seems a lot sharper. He seems a bit cleaner with how he's like taking the ball in his stride and dribbling and taking players on. And when it comes to his ability in the final third in front of goal, I understand he's been a bit inconsistent, but I do see a really good ball striker there. That free kick he scored in pre-season was brilliant. We've seen him score that goal against Leeds from outside the box, which was a fantastic strike. I think he's capable. We've seen him score goals for Bayern from similar distances as well and similar finishes. I think there is a really good finisher in there. I think there is a guy who can definitely score a lot more goals than he has for Tottenham. And I think De Zerbi's the perfect manager to platform him. And he's still young. He's still 21. So he's got time on his side. And I think he's obviously been developing now for 18 months in a Spurs shirt. And yes, it hasn't gone maybe the way we had hoped immediately, but we did sign a teenager. He's still very, very young. And I think there is a lot of potential there. And from what I'm seeing from him in pre-season, I would love him to hit the ground running from the first week and start really showing what he's capable of. Because I do think there is a player in there for me that is capable of what Sean is saying. I do think he's capable of getting 15 goal contributions.
Yeah, look, I think he's capable of it, and he does 100%. There's a player in there, and there's a lot of talent. It's just about how quickly we get there. Is it going to come this season or the season? I think we'll get there eventually, but is it going to be in the short term, or is it going to be kind of like next season and stuff like that? So that's just the one thing I kind of question.
Yeah, well, obviously we'll have to wait and see, but I think he is capable of it this season if we give him the minutes. But then again, we are now signing, hopefully, 4 players in his position, so it's going to be a battle for him to get those minutes. But I think he can get them. Ice Cold Killer says it kills me when Sim defends Solanke.
Kills all of us.
Fair enough. I mean, you want me to just say he's rubbish and shit and has no value or anything? I mean, I just don't agree with that. I was actually looking at his time at Tottenham, in terms of in his goals to minutes. It's not horrendous. It's not as bad as people say it is, and people just have this perception of Solanke is he can't hit a barn door. He's a rubbish striker. All this kind of stuff. I think there are question marks about him definitely over the last year about certain things, maybe his passion and there's a bit of fire missing from him. But for me, there's no doubt when he's at his best and we see him, in an attacking system as well, this guy can score goals. See, I think he is.
But that what you talk about, forget footballing quality. You can have quality as a footballer. Of course, he's got quality. He scored 19 goals in the Premier League for Bournemouth, so we know he can do it. But that what you say about missing the fire and those fundamentals you need to really reach the top, that's the biggest issue.
But I agree with that. But just because it's not there at the moment doesn't mean it'll never be there. And you can't get it back. And you can't maybe get reinvigorated by a new manager. As I've said, we haven't seen him much under De Zerbi because he got injured and he only played a couple of games. So we're judging him on what we've seen mostly under Frank and then obviously a bit under Ange as well. I was looking at that season under Ange. He started the season 17 games in the Premier League, 11 goal contributions in 17 games, and he had a 3-month injury, and he never quite looked the same when he came back from that injury. So, he was playing well, and he was looking good in that period, but people gloss over and forget that period because it was a while ago, and fair enough, I understand that. Last season, he didn't play for 6 months, pretty much, and when he did come back, I thought actually initially he came back, got that brace against Man City. He scored against Crystal Palace. Actually, I was looking at his Champions League record. Scored 3 goals in 3 games in the Champions League. So it wasn't horrendous. But then again, injuries seemed to hit and he never seemed to stay fit. And then he got fit again when De Zerbi came in and then he got injured again and missed the whole rest of the season. So I think the main thing for me is, he's had big problems with injuries since he's come in, and that's obviously a massive concern. But this is a player that played all 38 games the season we signed him, so he is a player that if you get his fitness right, he can stay fit. He's not like this perennially injury-prone player throughout his career. We have seen him stay fit for extended periods of time, so I'm hopeful if he does stay, and if with our hopefully improved or different medical team, he can keep fit. And it's all about whether De Zerbi can reinvigorate him and get that striker back that we signed. And I thought when the striker we did sign was a good striker. I will caveat and say I don't think he's ever going to be a top striker. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite striker. I don't see him ever being this guy who is a killer in front of goal and he's going to get you 25 goals and he's going to, ever finish like Harry Kane or ever finish like any of the top strikers in the Premier League. He's just not that. But could he be at his very best a serviceable finisher who can get you 10 plus goals? Yes. Is he a player when he's at his best who's got very good hold-up play, is extremely effective presser, really good physical qualities, really good link-up play as well, good in the air as well? I do believe that. Is he a player I think De Zerbi could have use for? 100%. But it's all about whether De Zerbi can bring that best out of him and bring him back to how he was when he first joined. Because as I say, when he first joined, his first 17 games, there was a good striker there. And we just haven't seen it since.
I question if he's ever going to get back to those levels. I mean, you're talking about the amount of time he's been out. Obviously was back for the back end of last season, looked poor. You really think...
But I'm saying he got injured again, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. But you really think like this pre-season, I know it's hard to take from pre-season, but we're judging Tell and how good he's looked on pre-season, so it's only right to do it for all the players as well. And you would think like after being out for so long, he'd be out to really prove a point to De Zerbi in this pre-season. But to me, he's not really looked interested in the 2 45-minute slots that he's had, you know, against MK Dons and I think against Chelsea. He's looked really poor. And, you know, he's not getting in the positions. He hasn't really, apart from maybe a 10-minute spell at the end of the first half of Chelsea. And even then, you know, he wasn't great. You just noticed him on the pitch a bit more. He's been unnoticeable on the pitch. You know, he's been anonymous. I think the fire looks to have gone out of his eyes. And you look at the difference between him and Richarlison. You always notice that Richarlison's there because Richarlison is always busting a gut in the game for the shirt, for himself. Because that's the standards that he holds himself to. I just feel like that's kind of gone from Solanke's game. So if he doesn't have that, then there's no point having him at all. So
yeah, and I agree with that.
I hope De Zerbi can get that back in him, but I do question it. And like the rumours that we've heard, I know they're rumours at this stage, but they come from quite well-sourced places that, you know, he had a deal agreed to go to Saudi if we got relegated. I mean, that just tells us everything that we need to know about Solanke. Like if he was willing to go to Saudi at this point of his career, opposed to like going back into the Premier League and stuff, just like, I don't know, man, it just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I'm not going to judge him based on rumours that we don't know for sure are true, but you can take of that from you will. I'm just judging him based on what we've seen of him in a Tottenham shirt, what potentially could be under De Zerbi, and whether we think it's worth, you know, either is worth just chucking away or there is some value. And look, if it's up to me and if we get a good fee for him, I'm happy to sell him if we can get someone better. I'm just saying I think he's got a lot more value than a lot of people give him credit for if we can get the best out of him. And De Zerbi's known for getting that passion and fire back into players. We've seen it. We've seen it ever since he's come to Tottenham. And my only point was, and people say kill me for defending him, but we haven't seen him really much under De Zerbi. He hasn't really had an opportunity. So I'm willing to give him that, and I'm willing to see how that goes. I'm willing to take a look at, see if we can get more out of Solanke than what we've seen, because I do think there is a good player. And my only point was, as well before, is that people are saying he's been terrible ever since he's come in. He's just been horrendous. And I do think large parts, yes, I'm just saying there was a period where we did see a good striker and people gloss over that because it was only just like in his first half. It was the first half of the first season that we saw him. But there was a good striker there who wasn't just terrible, who wasn't just, not scoring at all and just not involved. That Solanke I want to see back at Tottenham. And if we can get that Solanke back, we have a good striker. That's what I'm saying.
What's next?
Oh, yeah.
Your mind's caught up in Solanke.
Yeah, I'm still focused. Kamar Hagra says, you guys are insane, especially Sim. You're saying Gakpo provides in the final third. Then what was Johnson doing? What is Richie doing? Why we got rid of Johnson? And why are we getting rid of Richie? If you watch Gakpo playing regularly, you would not be convinced to even sign him for 50 million. He's basically a Richie clone, does nothing the whole game, pops up with a goal in some games. Very, very frustrating player. I'm insane for... Look, don't compare Johnson and Gakpo. I mean, Gakpo is a completely different level of player to Johnson. They're both frustrating in their own ways, but Johnson was a black hole in possession. The ball would go to him and you would never see it again, and it would disappear. And 30 seconds later, 20 seconds later, it'll be near our own goal and we'll be defending. That was Johnson. Johnson was good for certain things, running through balls, which he would then finish, or tapping things in at the back post. And if you could do that enough times, there's an effective player there, and that's absolutely fine. But Gakpo is not the same. You give the ball to Gakpo, he will hold it, he will dribble, he can link with... He is quite selfish, and that is a flaw of his. I'm not going to deny that. But he's not the black hole in possession that Johnson is. He's very, very different. He's technically a lot better than Brennan Johnson. He can hold off his man. He doesn't just lose it as easily as Brennan did. He's a lot more effective in that way. Obviously, he has his flaws, but Johnson was just complete. Johnson literally offered nothing apart from those moments, whereas Gakpo definitely offers a lot more than Johnson. When it comes to Rishi... they're just different positions. So, I mean, Rishi as well has been here a while. He's, the ball bounces off him. He's a bit of a trampoline. But yeah, he offers something in the final third, and I'm not massively against him being a striker, but it's just different positions, so I wouldn't compare them.
The reality is we should never have sold Johnson when we did because we lost an option and we nearly got relegated. So we needed his kind of input, even though he wasn't doing much. I'm happy to sell him at the end of the season, but at the time that we sold him, we probably shouldn't have. But Gakpo is hell of a lot better player than Brennan Johnson. The guy starts for the Dutch national team. He's a very, very good player.
Johnson doesn't even start for Wales sometimes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think with Cody Gakpo, I think he'll be a very frustrating player to watch at times. I think, fans will definitely get on his back at times because of how frustrating he can be. And I do worry with Cody Gakpo, if we do sign him, is it just a player that's going to provide a service for a year or two and we're going to look to kind of move him on in a couple of years' time because of how frustrating he is, and we want a kind of a more of effective player at times. But when you're looking at the market now and who we can bring in to take us up to the next level, Cody Gakpo does represent that because he's better than anyone that we got in those positions. So... You're looking at the price, though. The price is crazy for a player that we might not be able to sell because of the price. That's the issue.
Sign or sell?
Sell.
Sell. You mean in 2 years' time?
Yeah.
Well, look, you cross that bridge when you get to it, but in 2 years' time, if he's been an absolute disaster, you have to take a cut price free, is what it is.
Even if he's not a disaster, if he's just showing the same frustrations that he has done, we've all said it, you've said it countless of times how frustrating Cody Gakpo is to watch. So if he's showing those frustrations, that we probably, if we're going in the trajectory which we think we'll be going and shooting up the league and going for Champions League, and then after Champions League, hopefully going for more, then we'll probably look to upgrade on him.
I think Gakpo's more than good enough to be in a team that plays Champions League. He's shown that. He's even good enough to be in a team that wins the league. He's shown that. He's done that with Liverpool. So I wouldn't necessarily say...
Correct,
I understand what you're saying.
As he gets older...
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But right now, I don't think is the time to think about that. I think right now is the time to think about how can we get this team back competing, and I think Gakpo can do that. I think Gakpo can be part of that. I think you're thinking way too far ahead. You're thinking in 2 years' time, what if he doesn't pull up any trees, and what if we need to sell? But that you can cross that bridge when we get to it. Hopefully,
that's the way they got to think about it behind closed doors. When they're talking about bringing in signings and talking about the long-term future of the football.
No, I understand that, but right now, they're not talking about in 2 years' time, well, how much we're going to get for them. Think about right now, next season, how many goals can he get for us? Right now, how many goal contributions can he get for us? Right now, could he be part of a team that gets us back challenging for Champions League? That's the conversation, and I think Gakpo can definitely do that. And even down the line, in 2 years' time, okay, we want to even go higher and challenge for the title. Could he be our backup left winger? Could he still be part of the squad? Probably. I would say. I wouldn't say unless he's a disaster. I wouldn't say you would definitely want to sell him. Obviously, you'd have to see how he does over the next 2 years. But for me, like right now, if you're looking at the decision to sign him for a good price right now, given the market, I think I would land more on yes, you go for it rather than no.
Yeah, look, we'll see if Spurs... I mean, he might not even be for sale at all. So
no, true.
It might be a completely irrelevant point. But look, I agree. I think like he would provide something for us, something positive for us in the next year or two. I just question, kind of up there after that. But look...
But if he's helped us got in the Champions League, you're not going to be complaining.
Yeah.
Gumby says, all of a sudden, Savinho, in quotation marks, is a serious talent. When the twin with hair, I'm guessing he's talking about me, has done nothing but be negative about the idea of signing him. I mean, I don't know if he's watching the content. I can't wait to see us sign Bahoya and watch him act like we signed Yamal, and God forbid you criticise it, because his response will surely be, you're not allowed to be positive and support your football club. I don't know what he's on about. I've been really positive about Savinho ever since we've been linked with him. I've been really on board with getting him in. So I don't know why he's saying I've done nothing but be negative about the idea of signing him. I do think he's a really serious talent. When it comes to what he's saying about Bahoya and watching him out like we signed Yamal, yeah, I'm sure whoever we sign, I'm going to try and look at the positives. I'm going to try and get excited about them, because that's just the kind of fan I am. But if people want to criticise whoever we sign and say they're not good enough, they're rubbish, you know, they're not the X, Y, and Z player, we're not ambitious enough, then fine, that's all, up to every fan. But I'm usually, whoever we sign, I'm going to try and see why we've signed them and try and look at the positive. But I don't know what he's on about. I've never been negative about Savinho. I've always said he's quite a serious talent.
Yeah, you have always backed Savinho, to be fair. I think both of us were really excited of the prospect of bringing him in last summer. This summer, I think I've been saying that I want to see Savinho at the club, but I also want him alongside someone else that can provide consistent goal contribution or proven to do that. So, yeah, I don't really know what that's on about.
Yeah, I don't know what he's on about. J True says, I don't care what most of Spurs fan base says. I want Gakpo badly. Top 10 left winger in the world when you really look at his stats. Is a true goal scorer, a passing threat, meaning between him and Robertson and the doggy, Solanke will finally get service. He's big, so can hold up play with Solanke and Kudus any better than him, and he'd be on City, Madrid, PSG or Barca.
I mean, in this current market, it's probably right, because this current market is pretty poor. So anyone that's pulling up consistent goal contributions on the wing, higher levels to Cody Gakpo, they are all of those clubs. So that's probably right. Yeah,
I think Gakpo is like the level below that. But I'm listening to fans like scoffing at Gakpo, and I think like I understand it. We all want to get the A-star talent, the A-list talent, but like, are we actually capable of getting that right now? Like,
probably not.
Like, do we have to settle for someone like Gakpo who could be the player that helps us get back in the Champions League, and then fine, he serves a purpose, and down the line we can move on. But right now, that seems to be a good purpose to serve.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Peter Jackman says Solomon is so underrated and he's been treated unfairly since he came. He's a better player than most last season. Keep him, play him. What is wrong with the club?
I mean, I agree with that. I think he has been treated unfairly. I think when you're looking at the struggles that we've had in the forward line, he probably would have started a lot of games last season with the injuries that we had. So, like I said, I'll be happy to keep him around for next season. Not to start, just to be a kind of rotation or backup option. And I think you've seen in pre-season, he's been one of the highest performing players. Look, I'm not sitting here and saying, he's going to come in if we keep him, going to come in next season, get 20 goal contributions. Far from it. But I think he's a lot better player than maybe people kind of give him credit for.
I think it's what he says is probably true. I think he is probably underrated, because ever since he's come to the club, he's either been injured or out on loan, and he hasn't never really got a fair shake at the football club. And obviously some loans have been better than others. Leeds, he was absolutely brilliant, but then Villarreal, Fiorentina, didn't really pull up any trees in those loans. So
apparently Fiorentina really like him.
Well, they're not coming back in for him, are they?
Well, I saw links. I did see another link for him at Fiorentina today.
He did okay. I think he scored a few goals, but he wasn't. I don't know. He didn't set the world alight. Put it that way. Anyway, so I think there's a perception that he's like this just terrible winger who he has no value or anything, and we just need to get rid. And I think definitely I would sell him for if we get in a good price. But I kind of agree with what he's saying here. He's better player than most last season. I think if he would have stayed last season, he would have got a lot of game time. When you think about it,
I just said,
he definitely would have got a lot of game time, and we could have used him last season. 100%, I agree with that. I think he would have added more value than what we were playing Gallagher out wide sometimes, and definitely thinking at those points. And even Tell, we were playing him, and Solomon could definitely be in competition with him last season as well. And you got to remember when we did sign him that he was okay. He was pretty decent at Fulham. He had some decent spells at Shakhtar. So there was a good player in there.
He had a decent start as well. Those after before he got that big injury, there was like 2 or 3 games where he looked really good. But then he got that injury, and that kind of threw everything off.
What I do think is, I've always believed ever since he signed, and I still believe it now. I just don't think he's. I think he would have had his uses. He would have been at Tottenham. I just don't think he's good enough for the level that we want. I just always believe
that's fair enough. But the level that we've been at the last 2 years,
that's also true.
Have been 2 17th place finishes.
Yeah,
and he's definitely better than kind of that. And I think in terms of what he provides from open play, he actually provides more than Brennan Johnson.
Probably, yeah.
Probably a lot more.
But we've sold Brennan.
Yeah, but we're talking about he hasn't had a fair crack of the whip.
I agree with that.
The last couple of years.
I agree with that.
He's had nowhere near a fair crack of the whip.
I think there have definitely been times where we've erred on the side of let's just get him out on loan and get rid. He's not part of our plans. Where actually, when you look at our attacking wide options, he could have been an option, and he actually could have probably done something with us. I don't think even if he would have stayed in those times, he would have convinced anyone that he should be starting for Tottenham week in, week out. I just don't think he's good enough for that. But could he have been a squad option, and could he have provided something? Yeah, I see. I don't see why not.
I don't think anyone says that he's the winger to take us on to the next level. He should be starting for us week in, week out. But what I keep saying is that I think that he could be an option in the squad. That's it.
I agree with you, but I actually think that time has probably been and gone. If we can get a good fee for him now and then sign more players. I think that time was the last 2 seasons. I don't know about next season. But maybe. I mean, depending what our plans are for the wingers, to be fair.
I guess we can only judge that at the end of the window.
Bad says, Sim is tweaking. There's absolutely no way we should spend anywhere near 70 million for Gakpo.
Look, I think 70 million is the max of the max of the max that we should go to. Anything above 70 just goes into ridiculous territory, in my opinion.
Yeah, it probably does. But as I've said, the market is skewed. The market is crazy right now. They were talking about 65 million even for Nick Jackson, who's, is he more proven than Gakpo in terms of in his relative position. You've got a left winger who's been at a big club for the last few seasons. He's been part of teams that have won leagues. He starts for his national team. He was, I think, player of the season when he was at the Eredivisie back when he was there. He's been consistent source of goal contributions over the last 3 years. He's 6 foot plus. He's got a lot going for him.
And also, apart from that not many people are really mentioning is that he'll come in and fit in right away because he's got a lot of people that he knows here. From
also
the
true.
National team. And also that left wing link up with Robertson and Cody Gakpo.
It's also true. So I just don't think that 70 million fee is as ridiculous as people are making it sound, especially in this current market. I think maybe a couple of years, even then, I don't know how much Liverpool signed him for, but I think 70 million in this market for a player of Gakpo's quality is not ridiculous. I just don't. And as I've said, put it in the comments. Let me know. I want to know what your thoughts are. You're the manager. You've got 70 million to spend on a left winger. Who are you getting who's more proven, more reliable, and 100% better than Cody Gakpo? Who is this player? Because I would like to know your thoughts. I would like to know what your opinions are, because I can't think of too many. If we are going Prem proven, if we go even outside of the Prem, let me know in the comment section, because everyone's saying it's ridiculous. I'm just looking at the landscape and it just doesn't seem that ridiculous to me. But maybe I'm missing a whole bunch of players who we can get for 70 million who are definitely better than Gakpo. But let me know.
Look, can we just stop all this and just go bring in Gift Orban and let's be done with this?
Exactly. Last but not least, this Darius, to be fair, is bringing a few names to the table. He says, why not Ilman Ndiaye, Yakuba Minter, Karim Matoma, or Brahim Diaz from Real Madrid? He is going to have a hard time with Diamande arriving. Goula as well could come in the 10. Brahim is going into his last year of his contract. Surely not more than 50 million, can play both wings and 10. Abundance of experience in Serie A, Spain, World Cup, and is still at a good age.
I like Ilman Ndiaye. I've always liked Ilman Ndiaye. I think I don't think this move to Saudi is happening. I don't think Everton are sanctioning the move, or he doesn't want to go there. One of them, I don't know what it is. But 6 goals last season, 9 goals the year before. You would expect in a better team with better coaching, he can improve on that. And he is, Prem ready, been here for the last 2 years, been in English football for quite a long time before. I think he was at Sheffield United.
Is he a better player than Gakpo?
I don't think he's a better player than Cody Gakpo right now, but...
They're both same age.
Yeah, I know, but obviously Cody Gakpo went from PSV to Liverpool. Iliman Ndiaye went from Sheffield United to Everton.
Marseille was that before.
Was he at Marseille? So he was at Marseille as well. I don't know. I feel like you put Iliman Ndiaye in a better team and you'll see a lot better output from him. But they're very different. They're very different in terms of wingers. Yeah. I think if you're bringing Iliman Ndiaye, that's probably a replace instead of Savinho, not instead of Gakpo.
Yeah, I don't think Ndiaye is anywhere near as good when it comes in front of goal, in my opinion. I think Gakpo has got much better ball striking, hits the ball harder, he's a better finisher. I think Ndiaye is a bit more nimble, better at dribbling, can get past his fullback. He's probably less predictable in that sense. But if you're looking for someone for output, I think Gakpo's your guy. I think Ndiaye, though, can play both sides. And I do like Ndiaye. I wouldn't be against it. But is he definitely a better player than Gakpo in that sense? I don't know. What about Yakuba Minte, Karim Mitoma?
So Mitoma's... See, I would have taken Mitoma a year or two ago, but he always seems to be struggling with injuries now. So I'll probably decide against it. Yakuba Minte, he does impress me when I watch him play, but again, he just doesn't have the output. Even in an attacking side like Brighton, you'd expect him to get more goal contributions than he does. But he is young, so he's got that going for him. Brahim Diaz, I'm not sure of Brahim Diaz. I haven't seen him enough, to be honest, so it's hard for me to comment. Yeah,
I think I wasn't that impressed with him at the World Cup, to be fair. I thought he was quite disappointing. I've always liked him. He's quite a nimble kind of attacking midfielder, I would say, more than a winger. He's kind of attacking midfielder, plays out wide kind of player. I think physically he might struggle a bit in the Premier League. I think that might be a problem. I don't think he's better than Gakpo.
The thing with him, he's never really had the output.
Yeah, he's not like an output machine. So, I mean, I don't mind the suggestions that have been brought by Darius, but for me, like you're asking me those players or Gakpo, I think I'd still side with Gakpo.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
Sarr from Palace. I mean, we haven't considered him. I do like Sarr.
Sarr from Palace does get contributions.
He does.
What did he get last season?
He got quite a good amount. And he's quick.
So we were linked with him before he went to Palace and before he went to Marseille when he was at Watford. So last year he got 9 goals. The year before he got 8 goals.
Yeah.
Last year he got 1 assist. The year before he got 6 assists. So I actually always thought he was better last season than the season before, but his output was better the season before.
I feel like he really... But where Glasner was playing him, this kind of inside forward role really suited him. I always feel like when he's stuck out wide, he doesn't get in the goal scoring positions anywhere near as much. When he's actually if he played where De Zerbi wants him to play, I don't think he scores as many goals. Because I think it's different.
But if we're using a fullback that's going to go on the outside, he might be able to occupy those central positions a bit more.
Yeah. I just don't think we would, because Porro is going to be inverted.
The thing is with him, he's like a very good transitional player, but is he a great player like in possession?
Yeah. He can definitely run into a lot of trouble against low blocks and stuff for sure. But I do like him. I think there's a good player there. But yeah, I think he would be similar to Brennan under Ange. I feel like he fulfills a very specific role. You take him out of that system. I'm not saying he becomes useless, but I don't think he's as effective as he would be.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But look, those are your comments, people. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. That is it from us today. We'll see you all very, very soon. Hopefully, we'll know the name of who that
could come at any time.
Is. Exactly.
Anytime. So keep notifications on.
But thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll see you soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.